David Smith here with another Flipped Classroom math video. A few tips before we start. Remember that you can slow down or speed up the playback if that helps you follow along. You can also pause the video at any point to catch up with your notes or try the problems before I explain them. Lastly, you could turn on the captions and read my words going along below the bottom of the screen. Today's topic, compound interest. This is one of the more important ideas to understand, not just for this class, but for your life. People that create wealth for their families understand this idea of compound interest. So before we get into the mathematics of it, I'm going to give you a really good, solid understanding of exactly what it is and why it's so desirable. Okay, so interest is a fee that's paid on money. So if you borrow money, say to go to college, you have to pay a little monthly fee on that money that you borrowed, and that's what the bank gets for giving you that money. In the same way, if you put your savings in a bank, then they pay you interest, and that's the fee they pay you. You're essentially loaning your money to the bank while you give it to them for safekeeping. And then the benefit you get is that your bank balance grows. Your savings account grows a little bit every month based on that interest. Now, the cool thing about interest and what should have your attention is that this is money that you get for no work. Okay? We call it passive income, and it's very powerful. If you had $1 million and you could put it in the bank and not touch it, and the bank paid you interest, you could have an income every month that came from the bank that you didn't have to do anything for. That's powerful. If you put that money back in the account every month, then your account's going to grow. Okay? So that's interest, and why you're so interested in having it. That was not intended. Okay, so interest is a fee or a rate paid on money. Banks pay interest on savings accounts. So if you put your money in the bank in a savings account, they're going to give you a little bit every month. Over time, that interest is added to your account. So say you're making $10 a month in interest every month. At the end of that month, you're going to have $10 more in your account. Now, here's the cool thing, is that previously earned interest now earns interest. So at the end of the month, you got $10 more in your account. So now next month, that $10 that is interest is earning interest itself. And so that's called compound interest. And so that helps your money grow even faster. It's a pretty powerful equation, and if you understand how it works, you can use that to your advantage in your financial life. Okay, let's take a look at a hypothetical bank account and watch how this happens. So this person, could be you, could be me, could be anybody, takes $1,000, puts it in the savings account, and this account pays 6% interest at the end of every year. Okay? So at year zero, like right at the start, there's no interest paid because the bank hasn't had the money, and the balance is $1,000. We're started. So at the end of the first year, how much interest are we going to pay? 6% of 1,000 is $60. So that person's going to make $60 in interest, and they're going to have $1,060 in their account. Now I can do that math in my head pretty quick because 6% of 1,000 is just 60. You can figure that out. From here out, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. Now, at the end of the second year, it's going to pay 6% interest, not on 1,000, but on 1,060. So the interest paid now is going to be $63.60. Okay? So that's going to give us $1,123.60. So at the end of the second year, that same $1,000 is now growing faster because we added $60 worth of interest from the first year. At the end of the third year, that interest is going to be $67.42, and that's going to give us $1,191.02. So we grew even a little bit more. We made 60 our first year, now 63.60, now over $67. Okay, so let's fast forward. Let's say we ran this, we left that money in the account for 20 years. How much interest did we earn on that last year? Pretty good, $181.54. And how much are we going to have at the end of 20 years? We're going to have $3,207 $1,000,000.14. So we made our account, started at $1,000, now it's at $3,207. So we made $2,207 on our money for no work. We didn't have to lift a finger, do anything to make that money. Now typically people invest a lot more than $1,000 in their investments, and sometimes they can make more than 6%. So you can imagine that you could actually make a lot of money this way without working. Okay, so we have an equation that lets us do this nice and quick and easy. So the math isn't super complicated, but again, these are kind of word problems, so plugging in the right values in the right places is essential. Okay, so let's take a look. It's FV equals PV times 1 plus I to the n power. And you can see I've written around here exactly what is what. So FV is just future value, so that's the amount you have at the end of the time period. Present value is the amount you're starting with. So another example, that was $1,000 in that last one that we just did. 1 is 1, I is the interest rate. So 6%, 10%, 2.5%, whatever that might be. And then n is the number of years. I'm going to put it in there for 3 years, 10 years, 4 years, whatever that might be. Okay, let's do another example. 5,000 invested at 8% for 2 years. Okay? What is the future value? Okay? So I started with our basic function. Future value is present value times 1 plus the interest rate, all raised to the power of the number of years. So our first step here is to do a plug-in step. So FV, that's what we're looking for, equals PV, that's the 5,000, times 1 plus the interest rate. Now this is a tricky step. 8% is not like a regular number, it's a percentage. So we have to turn it into a regular number. And 8% is 0.08. That's 8%. That's 8 out of 100. 2 years for n, we put our power up there. Now this is going to be, let's simplify that out, 5,000. Now 1 plus 0.08 is just 1.08 to the 2. Now this takes a calculator to do. I did it ahead of time. What I get is 5,832. Okay? So they made 832 over 2 years with their $5,000. You should make sure that you can use your calculator and get that result. Okay, let's do one last example here. This one's a little bit more tricky, okay? Because you'll see in a second how we're setting this up. We have the opportunity to invest some money at 8.5%. Now in your textbook you're going to see PA. That stands for per annum, which is per year. So what that means is that it's an 8.5% yearly interest rate. Okay? So don't stumble on that. That's just per year is what PA stands for. Okay. Now we can invest any amount we want at 8.5%. Here's our goal. We want to have $10,000 in 4 years. Okay, that would be nice. Say we have a purchase we need to make. How much do we invest now so that we have $10,000 after 4 years? So your first step is a plug-in. Our future value is $10,000. That's what we want. What we don't know is our present value. Okay? So that's the PV. Now we have 1 plus 8.5% is 0.085, and it's to the 4. Okay? So now we just have a variable in a different place. It's not quite the same calculation as before. I want to simplify this first. That's PV times 1.085 to the 4, because we can just add the 1 and the decimal there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide through by this term there, 1.085 to the 4. So I'm going to divide both sides by that term, which would leave PV alone. So PV is going to equal 10,000 over 1.085 to the 4th power. Now this is definitely not something you can do by hand. You need your calculator. That's a 4. You need your calculator to crunch these numbers. So go ahead and pause the video, get out your calculator, see if you can do this. Okay, here's what I get when I do it. I got $7,215.74. So if I have this amount of money and I invest it in this account that gives me 8.5% per year, at the end of that 4-year period, I'm going to have 10 grand. Now that you've finished watching the video, take a moment to jot down any questions you have so you can bring them to our next class and get some help. You can also watch the video again to perfect your understanding. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button down below, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.